In today's video, I'm going to be addressing common natural hair issues such as single strand knots, matting, split ends, and the list goes on. I'm going to be explaining to you guys what these terms are, the causes, preventive measures, and just how to fix it in general. So if that's what you're interested in watching, please make sure you stick till the end of this video. And yes, let's jump right in. So the first thing we're going to be addressing today is single strand knots. They are also called fairy knots and they're also called SSKs. Single strand knots really occurs when one strand of hair loops around each other and begins to tighten to form a knot. Now the sad part about single strand knots is that you tend to not notice this looping until it has tightened into a knot. So I dare say that it's really hard to prevent. So now you may be wondering, what is the cause of this single strand knot? Now the major cause of single strand knots is our hair type. If you have anything from curly to coily hair texture, you know that our hair grows in like S shapes and Z shapes, and so it easily tangles and loops around each other. That's just the nature of the hair. Also, our hair is prone to shrinkage. When shrinkage comes hair looping around each other and forming these knots. So I dare say that it's almost impossible that throughout your journey you won't experience one or two single strand knots. Now you may be wondering, okay, I understand this and I want to fix the single strand knot. Unfortunately, most of the times there's no way to fix these knots because it happens on a single strand and you have to be something else to be able to unravel that knot from a single strand, because before you're able to get it done, that hair would have snapped. So let's actually focus on what we can do to manage the situation, which is what we can do to prevent so much single strand knots in our natural hair journey. Now, the first way that I found that has really helped me prevent a lot of single strand knots in my natural hair journey is to keep my hair straight. Yes, I know that there's a lot of video going around saying that we should accept our texture and accept it the way it shrinks and curls up and we should wear it in that state. But I dare say that that's a dangerous advice, because once you leave your hair to shrink up, you can't control what happens. So it will loop around each other, it will mat, it will tangle, it will twist, and inevitably it will lead to hair breakage. So you need to employ practices that would help to stretch this hair. Now, one of the ways you could do this is through twists and through braids, right? But honestly, personally, I've gotten to a stage where those are no longer my preferred ways to stretch my hair. Now I like using the blow dryer, but this is not me encouraging you to. But I just feel like once you get a good blow dryer and your hair is already long enough, honestly, just use a heat protectant and blow dry your hair, and that to me is the safest method. It's like in the middle between using too much heat and not using heat at all, right? So if you handle it well and if you don't do it too often, maybe if you do it once in 2 weeks or once in a month, you should be fine. Now the next thing that I would advise for you to really manage the appearance of single strand knots on your hair is to wash your hair in twists. Now I know that a lot of people do not like this idea because they feel like a lot of products will be stuck in their hair, but honestly it goes a long way to prevent your hair from shrinking up and tangling on each other and forming these single strand knots. So wash your hair in twists. But if you feel like it's a no-no for you, or if you really want to detox your hair and you want all the product buildup to be out, then at least wash your hair in manageable sections. The next way to manage single strand knots in your hair is to detangle your hair efficiently. I've heard the saying before that you can never fully detangle natural hair, and honestly I think that this is a detrimental advice, because sometimes you may go with that flow and then just do a very ineffective detangling, and this means that your hair goes for a longer period not well detangled, and obviously this leads to more tangling, more single strand knots. So you need to devise a way to effectively detangle your hair. My rule of thumb is that you should not detangle your hair every day or every week, but detangle your hair at least once in 2 weeks or once in a month, and make sure it's effective enough using your hands and or using a comb, a white tooth comb, or a brush. Now the next thing that a lot of you don't like, because people want to retain all the length on your hair, but it's actually counterproductive to what you're trying to do, is to go for regular trims. Now for me, regular is 3 to 4 months. It's not 4 to 6 weeks, because like, why are you taking up the hair that managed to grow in your hair? Like 4 to 6 weeks to me is too regular, and to me that means your goal is not to retain length. But if your goal is to retain length while keeping a healthy hair and preventing single strand knots, you need to go for regular trims. Guys, the truth is that the nature of our hair is such that you can almost not eliminate single strand knots. However, if your ends are healthy, it's going to prolong the time that your hair is going to loop around each other, because it's generally healthy and it's just going to stay put. So you need to go for regular trims, and that way you'll be able to manage the occurrence of single strand knots on your hair. The last thing that I'm going to suggest to you guys is that you need to incorporate protective styles into your regimen. Now, what I like about protective style is that it makes your hair stay put. So for example, if I let my hair to free flow and just do its own thing, then I'm leaving my hair to be susceptible to the humid area that I live in, to someone splashing water on my hair. And you know, because our hair is just magical, it moves with the weather. So it means that if the day is really humid, it's going to tangle on each other and stuff like that. But when you put your hair in a protective style, your hair is just going to stay put. Even if the weather comes, yeah, the protective style in itself may shrink up, but your hair is typically in just one shape. And so that way you prevent single strand knots for a longer period. So try this out and let me know if it works. Now let's move over to split ends. It looks exactly like an unraveled rope. It's just that our hair is not as large as a rope, but it looks exactly like that. So now you may be thinking that, oh, I've not noticed split ends. Now the reason why you may not have noticed split ends is because you've not taken one strand of your hair to really notice how the ends look. But if you take a strand of your hair and you really look up close, you realize that some strands are actually split into two. So your hair has its own strength when it's together. So you know the way it's like, together we stand, divided we fall. So it's already divided. So it means that you split that hair strength into two. So it means that it's more susceptible to breakage, and obviously that means that you won't retain length. This is even the major reason why a lot of people don't retain length, because they have a lot of split ends, and so their hair is just breaking up anyhow without their control. So now let's talk about some causes of split ends and some things you can do to prevent it. As I said previously, one of the causes of split ends is just natural wear and tear. When you use something over time, it tends to have wear and tear, and our hair's way of showing that our hair is experiencing wear and tear is through splitting. Obviously, do you get? So as you use your hair is just naturally going to wear and tear. So for the natural wear and tear, a way to prolong it for me is to reduce the way you manipulate your hair, right? Just tuck your hair in and leave your hair alone, and that way you should be fine. Now, just tipping over that is over manipulation. Now, when you over manipulate your hair, when you're always over styling it, you're always just changing up the style because yes, you're adventurous and you like new things, it's cool, but you are just increasing the manipulation, right? And this leads to wear and tear, and obviously it makes your hair split into two. So a way to combat that is to reduce the amount of times you manipulate your hair and just tuck your ends in, right? Just preserve it. The more you preserve it, the longer it's going to take to have that wear and tear. Now let's talk heat styling, right? So heat styling is good. You guys have heard a couple of times in my channel and my videos when I recommend blow drying, and I actually don't mind people that straighten their hair with hot combs and the likes of them. But excessive heat styling would lead to a higher chance of wear and tear to your ends, and obviously it will lead to you having to chop off those ends because you're having split ends. So, well, so many ends. Anyways, so you need to reduce the amount of time you blow dry and you flat iron your hair. A lot of people, for example, they'll flat iron their hair, and today they'll decide that they want to wear that flat ironed hair in a curly way, and so they'll take the flat iron and then they'll curl the hair. Over time, your hair is not going to withstand that kind of manipulation, and it's going to lead to a lot of split ends. A lot of people that heat style their hair, a lot of people that are straight naturals can testify that one of the downfalls of using heat products is the fact that you are more prone to heat damage, which sometimes looks like split ends and you having to trim your hair all the time. So you want to cut back on this kind of practice so that your hair can last a longer time. Let's talk about harsh chemical products. Guys, whenever you bleach or dye your hair or use relaxers, let me tell you, it's almost as if you are putting your hair through a rigorous process that it might or might not come out of it. Now, everybody that relaxes their hair knows that the first time you relax your hair, you're so happy. But then over time, you begin to notice the damage that these chemicals are causing to your hair. Same for those that bleach their hair and dye their hair. It makes your hair drier than usual and so more susceptible to breaking off and splitting. And yeah, this increases the appearance of split ends on your your hair. So if you're a relaxed hair girl, my advice is that you relax your hair 3 times in a year or 2 times in a year. So every quarter or every 6 months. That way you're able to stretch the harmful effects of relaxers on your hair. No matter how quality a relaxer is, over time it's just going to tell, right? So you need to be more careful. Another advice for those that are relaxed, I know this is not a relaxed hair channel, but you need to stop them from relaxing already relaxed parts of your hair. So whenever you're going for a relaxer, they should relax your new growth. Why? Because the other parts of your hair has already been relaxed, and if you keep putting relaxers on those parts, what's going to happen is that you're going to overprocess your hair, and obviously that leads to split ends, and that leads to low length retention and just the general damage of your hair. Also, when you're bleaching your hair, honestly, I don't know, I just feel like bleaching ultimately always damages your hair, right? This is, most people that bleach their hair eventually have to cut it off gradually and stuff like that. So why don't you go for temporary colors? I know it's not as fun, but at least it kind of gives you the effect that you want without damaging your hair, right? So that way you prevent split ends and you just go for longer periods without that kind of stress. Finally, on that split ends, there are a lot of people that are living in countries that have extreme weathers, right? So when it's cold, it's really cold and dry. When it's hot, it's really hot and humid. So in those periods, you need to adopt protective hair care processes that just really help to prevent your hair from being affected by this harsh weather. For example, when the weather is really cold and dry, it makes your hair hard, brittle, prone to split ends and breakage. So you would want to make sure that your moisture routine is on lock. You want to make sure that you use more head wraps. Just do things that will prevent your hair from getting to that stage that the weather is trying to get it to. Does that make sense? So with that way, you'll be able to prevent split ends for a longer period. So now let's go to the final part that you guys have been waiting for, which is matting. Now, one of the things that makes your hair to mat up and to tangle up is just because of the way your hair is set up. As I said previously in this video, our hair is curly or coily, and so it means that it's more susceptible to shrinking up and just looping around each other. Our hair just loves each other, and also the way our hair is able to become big is by just clumping up together and forming that big beautiful halo, right? So we already know that we are more susceptible to matting. Before I move on to the causes and prevention of matting, I just want you to know that the 2 things I mentioned before, single strand knots and split ends, increase matting in your hair, right? Because it just makes your hair to not glide as easily, and obviously it's going to make your natural hair journey more frustrating. So now let's talk about some of the things that you can do to prevent matting in your hair. One of the things you can really do is to stop treating your hair as if it's a straight hair. Now, a lot of people like the idea of things like wash and go, and I'm not against it per se, but I just feel like, first of all, for you to do a successful wash and go, especially with the ones that are really trendy and really cute right now, you need to go to a professional to do it. Because if you do it by yourself in the old way that we used to do it, you're not prone to really shrunken hair, matted hair, single strand knots, and just everything that you don't want to experience in your natural hair journey. So honestly, stop treating your hair like it's a 1A hair. You can't just wash your hair and go. You can't just wash your hair and not do something to it. It's going to shrink up and it's going to cause serious matting. You need to put it in some form of stretched or protective style that will prevent it from shrinking up. The next thing that a lot of people do is that a lot of people try to go without stretching their hair. I feel like when you're a natural hair girl, one of the things that you should do is to stretch your hair at all times. Now, the degree to which you want to stretch your hair varies. You can decide to go to become a straight natural, or to just be a twist out babe, or be like me in the middle and be a blow dried babe, you know, here and there. Although of recent I've not really been blow drying my hair, but that's a thing I do. But you need to stretch your hair, because the longer your hair grows, the more likely it is to mat against each other. So you need to stretch your hair for longer periods so that you can actually combat this. Then some other things that you can do to really prevent matting is, for example, wash your hair in twists. I can't emphasize this enough, so that you don't give your hair an opportunity to mat. Or if you don't like it, make sure you always walk in manageable sections. But the times when you're washing your hair, or when you're deep conditioning your hair, or styling your hair in general, just stop seeing your hair as a whole. See your hair as sections, because your hair is too magnificent and it's too complicated for you to work with it as a whole. The next thing I'm going to advise is that you need to learn to tuck your ends away. Now, yes, I know that my ends are dangling up and down now, but let me tell you, this is just to look cute for you guys. On a normal day, I tuck my ends away because the more hidden my ends are, the less susceptible they are to drying off and to just becoming brittle, and the less they have an advantage to mat up. And then yes, you need to keep your hair in a protective style. So if you notice with all these things I'm saying, they kind of have a similar trend. When you're a naturalista, there's a way you need to tailor your hair regimen. It can't look like another person's one. And yes, some of you may see this as limiting, but I really see it as us just basking in our uniqueness. When you know your hair strength, you focus on it. When you know what it can be weak in, then you focus on not putting yourself in positions where your hair can be that weak. It's not a limitation, it's just you working in the specialness that your hair is. Does that make sense? And so yes, this is just me trying to address some common issues. I know that sometimes, because natural hair has been there for a long time, a lot of us talk about more advanced things, but I think I want to treat my channel as a channel that you can come and learn things that you didn't know before. You know, it's not everybody that has been studying about natural hair for the longest. Some of you are new to this, and some of you are just frustrated by some of the issues that you may be having. So I just thought to address some of the issues. But let me tell you something, I'm not done addressing all the issues that natural hair has. This is just the most common ones that I've found. So if you have some other natural hair issues that you want me to address, make sure you leave it down in the comment section below, because I'm going to address them for you guys. I am here for you guys. So if this video was valuable to you, please ensure that you give this video a huge like. It really ensures that YouTube knows that this video is of value, and it gives me just encouragement that yes, I offered value. Please subscribe to this channel, turn on your bell notification so that every single time I post a new video, you will be the first person to know. So thank you so much for watching this video, guys, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye. Mwah.